Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. Major League Baseball seems likely to expand by 2 teams in the near future. The owner of the Carolina Hurricanes wants Raleigh and North Carolina to be part of this conversation. North Carolina is already home to franchises in the NHL, NFL, NBA, MLS, and NWSL, as well as hosting NASCAR and PGA Tour events annually. It's still very early in the process of putting together a potential MLB ownership group and identifying stadium locations. But it's a conversation that lots of sports fans are watching very closely. WRAL Investigative Sports reporter Brian Murphy joins me to break it all down. Welcome to the program, Brian.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
So first, let's set the foundation here about this expansion. How big is Major League Baseball right now? How many teams do they have? And why are they looking to expand right now?
Yeah, Major League Baseball has 30 franchises. And the NFL has 32. The NHL has 32. I mean, 30 to 32 is about the number for these pro sports leagues. And they're thinking about expansion for the same reason, most people think about things, and that's money. These franchises will bring in a whole lot of money to the existing owners. And plus 32 is seen as a better number for scheduling and for creating divisions and things than 30 is.
Absolutely. So the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, Tom Dundon, thinks Raleigh would be a great location for an MLB team. Why?
Well, that's a great question. I think he's seen the success that the Carolina Hurricanes have had as number one. I think that's number one. He's proven that a pro sports franchise can work in Raleigh. I think number two, you look at we're a growing state. We're the 10th largest state in the country. We do not have a Major League Baseball team. We are also attracting businesses, large and small. And for a pro sports franchise, you need a lot of corporate backing. And so I think he believes that the time is sort of right for North Carolina. The time is right for Raleigh to get involved in this conversation. And
you mentioned the Carolina Hurricanes. Their success, obviously, is something that he will hold up and say, look how successful they've been. So therefore, a baseball team could be as successful.
Right. The support, the fan support, the Carolina Hurricanes were second in the NHL last year in average attendance. The fact that he signed this long-term lease to stay at PNC Arena, and he has the now land around PNC Arena to develop, really feels like he's put some roots down in Raleigh. This was a team that was often talked about moving maybe to Texas or maybe to Canada. Tom Dundon's kind of put an end to all that by signing this long-term lease. Now it looks like he's trying to get in the business of bringing more pro sports to the area.
Well, we will be right back after the break. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. So clearly, this is the beginning of a very long process. What does Dundon say about that? How long could this take to play out?
I think the important thing to know is Major League Baseball has not yet said they will expand. Their commissioner said in July at the All-Star game that that's something they would like to have a conversation about. He hasn't even named an expansion committee to begin exploring this process. There are 2 Major League franchises that they needed to get settled, Oakland and Tampa Bay. They both have stadium issues. Oakland, it appears, is going to move to Las Vegas. Tampa Bay just recently announced that they have a new deal for a new stadium there. So once those 2 situations are kind of settled, then they'll look to expansion. And this is going to be a long process, and Raleigh is not a front runner. Nashville, Portland, Las Vegas, if they don't get the A's, Montreal, even Charlotte, have been in this business for a longer time than Raleigh has been. And so this process is going to take a while. Tom Dundon, in conversations with us at WRAL, talked about you have to build a team. You have to build a team around you.
Sure.
You have to see if there's fan support. You have to see if there's corporate support. You have to see where a stadium might go. This is a long process, but what Tom Dundon said is he wants to be part of that conversation and not have this round of expansion come and go without Raleigh even having a chance.
Yeah, without participating. And, I've been here long enough to remember that people were like, hockey in North Carolina, right? And I mean, again, the Hurricanes have such a strong fan base. So if you just look at that, you say, well, Raleigh might be ripe for this.
And Tom Dundon said he thinks baseball would be an easier sell. Look at how well we've supported the Bulls and the Mudcats. He thinks baseball is a more natural fit in the South than hockey even was.
Well, also a lot of people have children who play baseball, so they might just be in general interested in the sport. So how much does it cost to launch one of these franchises, and where does that money come from?
Yeah, an expansion fee to get into Major League Baseball is probably about $2 billion. And that is probably the low end. And that's billion with a B, not million with an M.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
Nobody just has that hanging around. Yeah.
But it helps if you're going to have a chance at one of these franchises, you've got to have an owner. You've got to have the person with the money to step up and say, I want to do this.
Sure.
You can't really crowdsource that kind of revenue. And so to have Tom Dundon, who has deep pockets, he told us at WRAL that $2 billion is doable. It will not be the thing that stops Raleigh from getting a team.
Wow, that's amazing. So I know, again, we've said this is so early, but of course, the first question that most people have is, well, where would they put the stadium?
And that's a great question. I mean, the land at PNC would become the first thought, right? There's Carter Finley Stadium and there's the hockey arena, and there's a lot of rumor around that. Maybe you could put a baseball stadium there. Certainly they've talked about downtown South as a place where a stadium could go. There's a pretty good stadium already in Durham. It is not up to Major League standards. It would have to be improved. But could you do something at the Durham Bills site? Could you do something around the airport? There are lots and lots of ideas. We were kicking it around the other day. What about the old Carytown Mall site?
Yeah.
Which, Epic has bought, but is kind of open. That's very close to the soccer complex, very close to Fenton, and has a lot of land out there. What Tom Dundon said is it's way too early to decide on a stadium site. He also, I think to be fair, said, if the best place for this is not in the Triangle, but in Charlotte, then he would back that bid. He wants to get something into the state. He said Raleigh would certainly be a lot more convenient for him. But I don't think he's looking only in Raleigh or only in the Triangle.
Sure, and it does, obviously, there would be lots of possibilities in the Triangle if they were to get that far. So big deal for baseball fans, but also big deal for the local economy, right? If this were to come here. I mean, you're talking restaurants, hotels, lots of different things that would benefit from this.
Yeah, baseball team plays 162 games, so 81 of those are at home. And if you're drawing 25 to 35,000 fans for each home game, that's going to bring a lot of ancillary business. Atlanta is the best example of this. They've created what's called the Battery park around their baseball stadium, and it's been a huge success, and everybody points to it as kind of the model for these things moving forward. To have a baseball team, like I said, that's a lot of dates, a lot of fans coming through, would be tremendous. And then with all the Northerners down here, every time the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Chicago Cubs played, you can imagine there would be a lot of interest.
Absolutely. So what's the next step here?
Like I said, I think this is going to be a long, long process. Tom Dundon has to get together a group. It's rare that one guy can buy these teams these days. It usually takes several investors. He's going to have to put together a group, and they're going to have to come up with stadium sites, with feasibility studies, with a plan for local government probably to contribute to a stadium. And then he's going to have to wait for Major League Baseball to decide that they actually do want to expand. And I imagine Dundon, with his connections, will be able to put together a pretty interesting proposal, whether that vaults Raleigh and North Carolina over many of these other places, Portland, Nashville, Montreal, Salt Lake City, kind of remains to be seen.
Well, I know you will continue to follow this, and I really appreciate you sharing your insight today and the background on this. And thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. If you'd like to hear more about things to do, places to visit, restaurants to enjoy in North Carolina, check out WRAL Out and About, a weekly podcast from WRAL News. Find WRAL Out and About in your podcast app. As always, thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download.